Okay, that's done. Okay, so hi gang, I'm just gonna share this. If you watch the replay, you can fast forward to when I really start. I've launched it, but I'm just gonna start for some people to come in, and so I can share it a bit. Okay, so that's done. I'm just going to wait a bit. I don't know if a lot of people are here already or not. I've got bloody sunshine in my eyes, so I'm just going to turn that a bit. Okay, so normally you can hear me. If anybody's here, could you tell me if you properly hear me, if the volume's all okay? Normally everything is okay. I've checked it earlier on. Let's just check out this. See, normally it's okay. I've got the chat open, so if you want to talk or anything, or if you have any questions during this session, you can ask them. There's no problem. I'll keep an eye on them. So I'm just going to do a bit, just to tell you exactly what we're going to be doing today. I've done this tutorial in French, and I've had a load of people coming over and asking me some questions about it, so I've decided to do it in English during the live stream, so you can ask questions and things like that. So what we're going to do today, we're going to see like a bit the fundamentals of a kick bass. I've got an explanation from Matt Weasel that he did a couple of years ago. We're going to go through. I'm not going to show you how to do a kick because that's really not the point. What we're going to do though is I'm going to show you how I do my sub basses, only the sub part. I'm going to talk about harmonics, and then we're going to phase it. I'm going to show you how to phase the sub bass with the kick, and then how to work in your project the easiest way. But again, this will be only my techniques, the things I do. Not all hardtek producers work like this, so you can see a bit what you want and what you don't want. So for that, and pick what you want out of it. So let's check it out. Just wait a couple of minutes, just so people won't ask me again what I'll be saying. So I hope everybody's okay. I know the UK is full lockdown, so I know you guys are free. Don't know if anybody else from any other countries yet, but anyway, if you miss this, or it will be on my YouTube channel afterwards, so no problem about that. So okay, so here we go a bit on what's going to happen. This so everything I'm going to show you, we're going to do some theory on kick basses, and all these links, I've got these photos and I've got a couple of wiki links. I will give you links to that in the description afterwards on my YouTube channel, so if you want to look back to it later on, you can. So this is a bit it's the only information we had for a long time about what was needed in a hardtek kick bass. As really, a kick bass is like it's two instruments, but it must sound as one. And the way you construct it is really, you do use a load of different elements and then you add them all together, and it really does this kick bass. So it's really something important. And today the phase I'm going to show you is really important. It's a game changer. It really is. So this is the information we had from Matt Weasel a couple of years ago. So here you can see that it talks about the attack, the kick, and the offbeat. And you can see here, and number 1 is the attack, number 2 here is the kick, and number 3 is the offbeat bass. So this is a waveform of the kick bass. So the attack, what it says about it must be short, loud and clear, like when you drop an iron ball on a flat stone. You can use distortion with a short decay on the basic synth kick. I'm not going to talk too much about the attack of kicks today. There's different type of attacks. There's this one Matt says about the iron ball kind of noise. I use more drum and bassy attacks. Like if you take a drum and bass kick, it's a bit of a bit of a hi-hat on it at the same time, and I use that kind of kicks, but it's not really what it's about today. So the kick itself, using a sine wave on the synth with a short decay on the pitch down to go from 2 octaves up to the note in a few milliseconds. A long decay will sound like a trance kick, a short decay will sound like a deep house kick. Hardtek is in between. What he means really on this is that a kick, mainly what it is, it's this sine wave that you take and you pitch down 2 octaves very fast. That's basically what it is. Every kick is basically a sine wave, because there's only one harmonic in it, and if you do with the saw wave, it will do something really distortion and a bit weird. So you can see here on the number 2, you can see that the sine waves are a bit closer, and then they go away a bit afterwards. So that's really the pitch going down and opening up. So you can see really this part here is the kick. On the offbeat, so what he says is the bass sound between 2 kicks that gives that pumping effect. To keep a nice fat sub bass, the offbeat bass must be on the same phase as the kick sub. When you want a kick bass in G note, take care that the kick and the offbeat are in G note as well, and the phase perfectly aligned to preserve the motion of the bass speaker's membrane. So what that really is in physics, what happens with the speaker. If you see here, like this sine wave, if you imagine like the top part is when the speaker is out, in the bottom part, right, like -1, is when the speaker is in, and when the kick bass hits through your speaker, that's what it does. It goes like that very fast. And what he's really talking about with the phase is you can see like at the end of this kick here, the movement of the sine wave, and then it goes directly into this offbeat bass, and that's what we really want. We want that because it's high speed, hardtek is between 180 and 200, so it's really fast. In a kick bass, will take just like one time of that. You need it to really be perfect, because the more faster it gets, if you've got a little problem in your phase, the speaker won't understand it. It'll just like this. It won't keep this motion of movement. It will do a little thing like that and then come back, and that will do every time the kick hits. So you can imagine that the sound that comes through it won't be really nice. So that's what he's talking about when we're talking about phasing the kick and the bass. It's mainly the sub bass of the kick and the sub bass of the bass. But the kick is only sub bass, and the bass you can add other stuff onto it, but we're only going to go through the sub bass. So that is the base of the hardtek kick. No other rule is needed, just inspiration, good taste, big sound. So that's it. All you need really is to have this motion, this sine going up and down, up and down, up and down all the way. It can be sort of a square shape, it doesn't have to be a sine shape, but it's really like the motion goes like that and goes into the bass. We're going to see a bit later on how to do that, and that's really the point of this tutorial. At the end, there's a load of different stuff I want to talk to you about, but the end point is this. So let's get to Ableton. So I've got like 2 kick basses ready here. I'm not going to show you how to do kicks because I'm not here for that. So I took the first kick, let's have a listen to it. So it's from Zone 33 Zemo Clean Kicks Volume 1. It's a bit old actually, this pack now. I think it's maybe a couple, 2-3 years old. But I've used this pack a lot because it's really nice to like start with a nice sounding kick sample, more than taking like any kind of kick and then trying to fiddle around with it so you can get something you like. People will call me lazy to do that, but if you're beginning on anything, just use samples. The thing is, you can use a sample, but if you just drop it into your track, it's never going to sound right. It's never going to sound right. You need, when you put a sample into your track, you need to process it, you need to do other stuff to it. You just can't drop it in like that, it won't work. So it is a bit lazy to take samples, but you still have a load of work with samples to do afterwards. So it's only getting a bit quicker. So that's it. So this is the kick I chose today for the tutorial, because I wanted a kick with a long bit of a tail on it. So you can hear, you can see, can't hear it, you can see that I've divided this part into 2 bits. You've got the kick here and the bass here. So you can see exactly when the basses are supposed to come in. So this other sample, it's from a sample pack from the Binary Squad. They're massive mates of mine. If you don't know them, go and check them out. We did our track Luigi's Adventure with these guys, and I only took the example of the kick bass. Sorry for that. The kick bass, only because, well, it sounds good, and I wanted to show you a bit how it ends, how it looks at the end of the track, because we work a bit the same. We've been mates for years, so we've been like talking a lot about production and things like that, so we help each other out. And what I wanted to show you here is really, you can see that the kick is finishing here, and then it comes in and it gets into that bass, and you can see that movement going up and down and up and down. There's some, it's not exactly a sine wave because there's distortion. Let's have a listen so you can hear how it sounds. So it's really that really pumpy effect. That's really what we want. So this is really, yeah, that's the motion here you want, and that's what I'll be showing you a bit afterwards. So this is what we're going to work with. I'm going to show you now how to do a sub bass using operator, so using a native Ableton synth. So I'll open up an operator. Let's just put a producer here so you can see what I'm doing. And you can, yeah, maybe you can, but I'll try to put another thing on just so you can really get out of the way. So there you go. So operator is like this basic synth in Ableton. I love it a lot because it's FM synthesis. I got it right this time. So what it is, it's, if you want, I'm going to explain to you what frequency modulation is. I've got this wiki page up here, and it will I can show you exactly what frequency modulation and amplitude modulation is exactly. Hi guys, hi Lucas, how are you, mate? Désolé pour le pas de français aujourd'hui. So no French for today, and I've already done this tutorial in French anyway, so I won't be showing a lot of different stuff. So about frequency modulation and amplitude modulation, what it is exactly is when you've got like this basic serum synth where you've got your oscillator A, oscillator B, if you send a sine wave and a saw wave both through those oscillators and you get out to the master of serum, you'll just hear those two sounds piled up together. What frequency modulation does is, instead of adding the two sounds up, it will use one sound to trigger the frequencies of the other sound. So this is here, I'll give you all these links for all these wiki pages and everything. The thing here with amplitude you can see here amplitude modulation and frequency modulation. So what it is an amplitude modulation is more like a volume modulation. So imagine this sine wave that is using as a signal. Imagine like the top part is the full volume and the lower part of the sine wave is the lower volume. So what it's doing, it's through time, it's pushing up the volume and turning down the volume of that sine wave. So that's amplitude modulation. So it's modulation through volume. Frequency modulation, you can see it here, that the sine waves go a bit closer and then they go wider afterwards. When you pitch a sine wave up, you would see the sine wave goes really closer to each other, and when you go down in pitch, it will go further away from each other. And what here is doing, imagine the signal is, the top of the signal is a high frequency, in the lower of the signal is a lower frequency. So what it's doing, it's going up and down pitch. That sine wave is going up and down of pitch, and that's what frequency modulation really is. It's throughout the frequency. If it's going up, it will move the frequency of the oscillator up and then move it down. I don't know if that is really clear how I got it out, but I understand more with the amplitude modulation. So then I apply it to frequency, imagining that. So volume being frequencies. So that is frequency modulation. So operator is a frequency modulation synth. So it's very, very powerful. It's very can't really control it very well, and it's a bit lucky, like sort of way of making sounds. But it's for me the most powerful. So I'm just going to go quickly through operator, just so you can see a couple of stuff, so you don't get lost, and especially you can redo what I've been doing afterwards. So here on the left, you've got these 4 oscillators, what they call operators, in operator, that generate sounds. So you've got a coarse button, but a coarse is not going up in pitch, it's multiplying frequencies. So if I go up to 2, I'm not going up to the second octave, I'm multiplying the frequency by 2. It's very, very different, and we'll go and see afterwards a bit with harmonics how it's different from going up from pitch. The fine is more just to like detune it a bit, push it up in pitch but just a little bit, so you can get like detuned sort of sounds. You've got the fixed button here that will it will allow you to stick an oscillator at a certain frequency. If you're using frequency modulation and you want it exactly to like modulate at that certain frequency, I don't know why you would do that. I think FM is way more complex than we think. So I'm not. I love it, but I don't understand it fully for now. So you've got a level button and you've got an on-off button. Okay. So that's basically everything on every operator is the same. Here in the middle, you've got every envelope of the oscillator, and if you click here on this little square, you've got here the drawing of every harmonic of your oscillator. So we will see that a bit in more detail afterwards. I'll go through that because we're going to make our sub bass using these harmonics here. So you've got the LFO tool, the filter, the pitch, and here you've got the last. Every time you see I click on it, it opens up a different sort of thingy in the middle. On the last one, you've got a load of controls on the pitch bend, the time, the tone, volume, but you've also got here these algorithms. So how operator works really is like every operator can modulate another operator. So what it really does here to understand the thing is like you can see this little square and you can see this little sort of line coming down from it. That means that we can hear the sound on the master. So we'll see a bit later on for that. And what it does is you can see that every square corresponds to a square here in the operators. So the first algorithm, what it does is the green modulates the yellow, the blue modulates the green, and the orange modulates the blue. That's how the synth will work. So you've got way different algorithms. So you've got one here where you can hear the green and hear the yellow. Both are modulated by the blue, and the blue is again modulated by the orange. So there's a load of different stuff to fiddle around with. I find it really, really interesting, and it's a bit of luck. So I'm cool with that. a lot of people, a lot of things are done by luck. You don't really know what you're doing, or you do a bit, and then you just get lucky a bit, and you're like, that's cool. The algorithm we're going to be working with today is the last one, meaning that every oscillator will go out to the master. There will be no frequency modulation on this. So I explained all of this frequency modulation to not use it at the end. So that's perfect for me. So now with this algorithm, so every oscillator will go out. Now I'm going to talk to you a bit more about sub-basses, really in the bass part, not in the kick part. A lot of people will think that a sub-bass is a sine wave on the key at a certain frequency. I don't really agree with that. I feel like a sub-bass must be rich in harmonics, must have more than just a sine wave, because it's a bit more richer, and you'll see afterwards why. Coming back to an operator here, I'm going to come back to this oscillator in this harmonic sort of levely thingy, don't know how to call it. So I'm going to open up Spectrum. I'm using all of Ableton's native stuff because I'm used to them a lot, so I use them really a lot. On every Spectrum, nearly every Spectrum, here, especially on the Ableton one, here you've got the frequency, you've got the root key, and you've got the volume. So we're going to be using that to show you exactly what harmonics are. So let's do that. 6 minus 6. Okay, so I'm going to do everything in a G. I'm going to open up a Spectrum, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push every harmonic. I'm going to turn the first one on and off, turn the second one on and off, third one, fourth one, fifth one, and I won't go over one because you probably understand what I'm saying. And they're going to come up on the Spectrum because what a harmonic is, it's just a sine wave at a certain frequency. That's a harmonic. So I'm going to push them up, and you're going to see what's going to happen on the Spectrum, and then I'm going to explain to you what really happens. Okay, I didn't want the sixth one, but you'll understand. So everything I hit on my keyboard was in a G. So normally, if it is pitches, if you go up in pitch, we have G everywhere. So the first harmonic I have is a G in like 50 Hertz and then 47, 48 Hertz. My second harmonic is an octave higher, so the G1 around 96 Hertz. Okay. And you would think that the third harmonic is a G3, the G2 on the third octave up. But when you look at it, it's a D. So what it means that is a half an octave up. So meaning that every time you go up in harmonics, it's not as if you go up in pitch. And that is really, really important to know. You see the fourth harmonic here is coming back to a G. And then the fifth one, we're going to a B. How to explain that to you, and how to explain how it is different between pitch and harmonics. Here I've got 4 operators ready with a MIDI clip on every one exactly at the same key. On every operator you can see here, you can't see it. Let's just get some MIDI effects. I should put the camera on the other side, but I always forget about it. Let's do that. So, and I'm going to have to put this on everyone. I should have got this ready before, I'm sorry guys. Okay, so what you can see on every operator, what I did is I just took in the middle here, this is my first harmonic, this is the second, this is the third, and this is the fourth. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze all of these. Oh no, I can't do that. I'm going to freeze all of these. Again, I'm going to freeze all of these. And I'm going to resample them, and we're going to see like what happens really to the waveform in what's what. Okay, let's push up one bit. Pump up the volume, pump up the volume, pump up the volume. Okay, so we're going to just have a look quickly on the first harmonic, how it is. So I don't know if you remember when you went to school and you had physics classes. In physics classes, normally we taught you, well, not me, but the teachers taught you what a frequency is. A frequency is a speed unit. It's exactly like miles per hour. So what it is let's take my sine wave and let's open it up properly. Okay. So the sine wave goes from 0 to +1 to 0 to -1 into 0. So that is what we call an oscillation. Okay. What a frequency is how many times how many oscillations this audio is going to do in a certain amount of time. That is a frequency. So it's really a speed unit. So you can see here I've took a full oscillation. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this full oscillation, okay, and I'm going to drag it down to my other harmonics. Okay, drag it right down. Okay, so remember this. This one is my first harmonic, second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth harmonic. So what harmonics are is that in the same amount of time as the first harmonic does one oscillation, the second harmonic will do two oscillations complete. You can see here it goes through 0, +1, -1, 0, +1, -1, 0. And it does two oscillations in the same amount of time as your first harmonic. The third harmonic will do 3 oscillations, the fourth harmonic will do 4 oscillations, and so on and so forth. That is the difference really that's the difference between pitch and harmonics. And that's why it's different. I've got a wiki page here open up with harmonic series, where you can see here on the right, this is my first harmonic because it does one oscillation in a certain amount of time. You can take all this oscillation and divide it by 2 and you'll get your second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth harmonic, fifth harmonic. So I'll give you all of these links in the description afterwards. You can go a bit further on if you really want to understand what harmonics are and how they are added to music and things like that. Because I think if you go a bit lower, yeah, you've got these crazy shit. I've already read this, but I didn't understand half of it, so I'm going with what I know. Hi Thomas, how you going, mate? Hello to everybody, but I didn't say hello to that's already here. So yeah, harmonics and frequency modulation is really cool, but you need to get into reading a load of articles to really, if you want to understand exactly what it is. You don't really need to understand it. A load of producers don't know this and they're perfectly okay and they do perfectly good music. But if I'm going to explain something to you, I'm going to do it properly and going to explain everything. So that's why it took it this long to explain to you what harmonics are. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I do my sub basses and why I do them like that, and etc. and etc. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to put up Spectrum because I always have a look at what I'm doing. We've got the pleasure, can I say, of seeing music now, as when they started with groove boxings and shit like that. You would never see your waveform or you never have a visual on it. We're really lucky to be able to have that, so I use it a lot. So I'll just do this, that. Okay, so I'm going to do my sub bass. So I'm going to show you. I'll do it and I'll show you afterwards why I've done it like this. Yeah, that sounds okay for me. If you look properly, you probably understood what I've done. I put my first harmonic on my first oscillator, I put the second one on the second oscillator, the third one on the third oscillator, and on my fourth oscillator, I took the fourth harmonic and I drawed going down, while I was going up in harmonics, I was going down in volume, because I don't want too much high end, and you can see that I've high cut at 500 or 600 hertz, just so I can only get the low part. And now you can see that I've got a load of different. Let's do this again. You can see I've got a load of different harmonics in my sub. That comes from a lot of. We didn't know how to do stuff really when we started doing hardtek, and what we used to do is get tracks of billets in that weasel and just stick them through Ableton and check out what's happening in the low frequency. How is the kick hitting? What harmonic is there? Why is it not? What kind of volume is it in? And we realised that this second harmonic is really, really important. I think in psytrance they even cut off the first harmonic and they only use the second one on their basses. So it is the second harmonic is really something important. It doesn't sound very nice on its own. I put it on its own and it doesn't really sound very well. You'd never put that on a sub bass. But when it's everything on, and I've turned this one off, you can hear it really get something really warmer. And sometimes what I do tracks, and I feel like something is missing in my kick bass, and I'm like, what? And most of the time, what I do is I take an operator, just like put this second harmonic in, freeze it, flatten it, just get a sample of it, and just like mix it in just a little bit, just to see how it sounds. If it gets something a bit better, leave it, and if it does shite, get it off. You know, it's trying and testing, try and failing, and that's really what it is about. Hi Tam Tam, how you doing, mate? Ready to do the subtitles in Spanish for every Spanish speaking? So that is how I did my sub bass. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to align it in phase with this kick here. Okay. So most of the time I resample everything. It's what I do. Well, I'll explain to you exactly what I do. I resample it, but what I do is once I get my sub bass done, I'll export like this long note, but I'll always keep my my MIDI channel in MIDI, and I won't resample it because I'll explain to you a bit afterwards why every time you go up and down a pitch in your bass, you need to resample in your bass and phase it back into the kick. I'll show you a bit later on, but always duplicate, freeze, flatten, no problem, but duplicate before or save as a different one. So just so you don't lose stuff, especially when you're starting producing and you sometimes you click on something and you don't know what you've done and you mess around your project and you're like, why did I do that and everything. So saving under different versions, duplicating something before you go into the synth and going twitch around things because Control Z doesn't work in Serum, it doesn't work in other synths. So if you fuck up your thing, you fucked it up and you won't come back to it. So let's have a listen. That's too high in pitch. So this is just like a MIDI clip of my bass. Okay. So what I'll do usually is I'll duplicate it, keep a version behind, freeze, flatten it, and I put my Ableton in English for you guys. So this is what my sub bass looks like. Okay. So it's really not just like this this sine wave here. You can see that because it's added different sine waves with different harmonics, it's become a bit something different. So how I phase up my kick bass is I work a lot in audio to phase. I don't work in MIDI. The problem with MIDI as sometimes if you get like a clip with four MIDI hits, you can have four different notes on it. In a kick bass, you want the kick and the bass to hit exactly the same every time it hits. If you've got differences in your kick, if you've got like this click that's moving around, there's something wrong with the phase. If your bass changes during the kick basses, it's a problem with the phase. So what I do is I work a lot in audio. It's not very handy. It's really not, but it's the best way I found to really be sure of what I've been doing, especially on kick basses. A load of other stuff, I'll leave it in MIDI, but the kick bass is really in audio at the end of my track. That's why I got this Binary Squad sample out for you, because this is how they end their tracks. They've got this sample all aligned on their 4 or 5 minute track, and that's how they do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the grid. Take off the grid. I'm going to drag this sample in the same channel as the kick, and what I'm going to do really is I'm going to try to align the top of the bump here with the top of the bump here. If you take your grid off, start to align it, land it out in Solid for this. And what you can do in Ableton is use the fades to cross over and make that the end of your kick goes directly into the sample of the bass. And that is basically how I phase my kick and bass. I could drag it out a bit here, you can move a bit around. You can see that it goes a bit darker here, so there's going to be a problem with maybe too much information. You can play around here with the fade to get it properly right, because what you want is you don't want to have the line too thick, because it means there's more information to it, so you're getting both information from the sub, and the kick and the sub will hit at the same time, so you don't really want that. We'll have a listen to it, and for me that is perfectly phased. You've got some other tools that you can use to see what's happening. It's called some scopes. There's Exoscope, you can get probably for free. I bought this one because I like the visual out of it, and the worst part of it is I bought it but I never bloody use it because I resampled stuff. But you can see here, I'll just play. Okay, and you can freeze it as well, so that's what I like about it. And then you can pull down the things, have a look, and you can see here, let's get a nice one, move it around, come on there, okay. So you can see here that the end of the kick is here, and it goes directly into the sub bass, so meaning that your speaker won't do anything crazy when it's hitting this kick bass at 190 BPM on 10Ks in front of a load of people. That's the thing. Sometimes you can have like this phase kick bass, well not phase kick bass, or a problem with the phase in the kick bass. And at home it will be okay, or you listen to little systems, it will be okay. But once you get it onto this massive 10K system with a load of people there, and like you're just passing off to somebody else, you will hear the difference and you'll be disappointed with your track and your kick bass. As it is, the main part of most of electronic music is the kick bass first. It's not. I won't advise people to start their track with a kick bass, because it's not that gives the ambience or the theme of the track. But if you've got a shitty kick bass, we will hear it, really. So it's something you need to get right, and phasing things like this will get already something a bit better than if it's off phase. So yeah, you can use these scopes. That's mainly how I work, and then what I do is I duplicate that all along the track. The problem doing that, there is a massive problem with doing that, and I'll get annoyed with myself for doing it like that. And I've got another way I'll show you afterwards. Is that I write a 4-minute track with a kick bass like this, and I realised around the end of the track when I'm doing my mix down that I need a dB more on my sub bass. It's not loud enough. So what I have to do is go and rewrite all the audio clips of all my track, and I've already done it like four or 5 times per track sometimes, and it wastes so much time. It really does. So normally you could do it with MIDI if you double check with a scope. Yeah. You could just like use this, just use a MIDI clip here and just the kick, put them both into a group, put a scope over it and see what's happening. What I usually do, I always double check by resampling stuff. So I would resample my kick bass, alright, and pull the volume up, and you can see that it's okay. You can see on the wave shape that the sub bass and the sub of the kick isn't loud enough than the punch here and the attack over here. Because you can see a load of things visually, the sounds now, and that's really cool. So yeah, I would always resample stuff just to check out if it's really into phase or not. It doesn't sound that good because I think that the kick and the bass aren't in the same key. If you get them in the same key, you would really sound like the same element. Because that's the thing with a kick bass, it's you want it to sound as one element. It's one kick bass, but when you construct it, it's a load of different layers of kick, of attacks and of basses and sub basses and things like that. So yeah, you need to get everything sticking together, and the main part with it will be in the sub frequencies. So if you don't want to do like me and have this crazy sort of one channel for kick sub and have that all along the track, what I've been doing lately, and I realised not long ago, but this another channel exactly the same volume, and now that it's phased, okay, and it's right in like the grid is on it and everything, you can just drag it out to the channel beneath. Like, that's not good. Drag it out, okay. So normally it is phased, but the fades aren't hitting each other. If I listen just to the sub bass here, because there's no fade here, it will clip. You can hear it clipping. So what I would do is I'll drag it out a bit, and then move in the fade a bit. Maybe the fade a bit like that. And what we're going to do, we're going to stick those both into a group, and I'm going to put my scope on it. Okay. And we're going to check out what's happening. I'm trying to get everything in. And you can see that the phase is still perfectly aligned. There's just a little problem of volume here, because you want this sine wave to be exactly nearly amount than the other ones. You can see it's losing a lot of volume. So what I would do is I would or drag a bit of the kick out, just a little bit, listen to it again. Yeah, you see that was a bit too much, because then you get this two subs adding it to each other, so that's really not good. You don't want that. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, you see, you're gonna have to tweak around with it to get it perfectly. Let's try maybe this one that bit. Yeah, you're starting to get there a bit. It's not perfectly there. Compared to when you put the two audio files on the same channel and you go through the fades, you know exactly when one is hitting over the other one and when one is stopping. Doing this way, you'll get maybe a bit of volume problem, and you'll have to be going around using fades to get it really properly where you want it. You could do exactly, if you don't want to buy a scope, just like resample every time. See how that sounds. That sounds okay actually. You see that? See that the fade is coming in a bit here, so that's not really what you want. Or maybe that wants to come back in a bit. Come out. Move the phase. Bit more steep. What you could do normally, I don't know if you can do that. Yeah, it's starting to get a bit better. Yeah, it's still a bit weird. Yeah, I don't want it like that. I really don't want. Let's do it like that and not have the both cross over each other. I've done it. I've done this like yesterday to train, and I got it perfectly right on the first go. This is going to piss me off. Yeah, it's starting to get there a bit, actually. You see? Yeah. So you see this is better. Yeah, I got it. This is better because you don't have a big difference of volume between the little sign before and afterwards. If I push up the volume, of course here it's squashed, but I would process that differently afterwards. But this is a way that you can have your kick and your sub on different channels. So if you realise that your sub isn't loud enough, you can just put a dB more on the mixer. That is really, really, really helpful. Then having really everything in the same channel is, sometimes it made me go crazy, and I didn't want to fiddle around with kick basses. I was just like, oh yeah, leave it, shit, I don't care if there's a dB less, I'll just leave it. But you don't want to leave it. You want to have a perfect kick bass. You want to have something really that's smashes really the hell out of everything else. So this is really how I'll do it, and you can see that at the end with this. Wait, no, it's not that one. Come back. You can see that the kick from the binary squad and mine. You can see that you've got the medium high on the bass, but you can see it's basically the same thing. But now I would use it like that, really. And as I was saying earlier on, in hardtek, what we love to do is we love to move the bass to the melody. If you're going up pitch, going down the pitch. If you do that, you need to rephase everything. You need to change the sample, get a sample, re-export a sample in a different key, come back and phase it, and do everything I've just done and do it again. Because when you go up in pitch or down in pitch, your sine wave will move, or your kind of beginning of saw wave, what I've done. It will move, so the phase won't come exactly back into it. So you're gonna have to check that out. I've been working a lot with Hector T Menace, and he's been telling me to push the kick up as well. So if you're from a G and you go up to an A, you need to put your kick to an A and your bass to an A. And he is right, it does make its difference. I wasn't really too keen before, but now I am, because I heard the difference. So if you can, push your kick up as well. The only problem with that is samples. When you pitch samples, there's always going to be something going wrong. You can take off the warp, okay, and go up and down in pitch. It will sound weird, especially on a kick, and sometimes on the bass. Especially worse if you've got this clip and you put it your kick and bass in the same clip, and you push it up and down in pitch. It will sound horrible. That's the only thing really to be aware of. Is sometimes you can't pitch up a kick, especially if you go mental high, you're on a G and you go up to a C. You can't push your kick to a C because it's really going to sound weird. So I would advise you to keep it in the same key, change the sub bass and rephase the sub bass with it. So this is basically really how I phase my kick and my bass. Afterwards, at the end, I've got this group with the kick, bass. Then I add up my medium high of the bass, depending on what I'm going to do a bit. When Matt Weasel started talking to us about phasing kick basses and everything, one thing he did say though is this is only really for these kind of side-chained electric or that kind of sounds. If you use a plucky bass, like a psytrance bass, or like a deep house bass or things like that, something that's got a sort of little impact on it, you won't be able to phase them together. And I would not take it too much importance to phase them, because they are the kick will have an impact and the bass will have an impact and you want to hear that impact on the bass, and you want the sub kick to stop just before the bass will hit, so you can get really the impact of the bass. So I wouldn't fuss around with the phase if you're using the plucky bass. If you're using, like, I've done a load of tracks lately, these electric aggressive sort of kick basses, like everything you've got in Frenchcore. If you're doing Frenchcore, this applies to you exactly the same way. If you're doing techno, deep house, psytrance, they go over a lot, but it's a bit different because they've got plucky basses. And in psytrance, if you do a triplet, you've got a bass that's coming over the kick. So there's a load of tutorials on psytrance kick basses. I've learned a load of stuff about the phase with their tutorials as well. So I would really advise you to go and check out a load of different stuff. But yeah, if it depends really on the kind of bass you'll be doing, if you want to phase it or not. So yeah, do you have any questions about the phase, about the sub bass, about anything like that before? Because normally my tutorial I did in French, like normally when it's cut out, it's only 20 minutes, so it's not that long. I'm going to go through a couple of the things with you about kick basses and things like that, and about processing. I'm not going to show you how to do a bass in Serum because it's not really, there's no point of it, because you'll just recopy exactly the same bass as I did, and you don't really want to be doing that. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, give us a shout. I'll keep an eye out on the chat. Or if I've gone too fast and you want me to come back to some stuff or things like that, you can. This is going to be a replay anyway on my YouTube channel, so if you've missed anything or you're just arriving, you can watch the replay afterwards. So when it comes really to kick bass, then afterwards, all of the annoying phasing stuff, you want to be applying processing to your kick bass. So there's some processing you'll do just on your kick, on your single channel kick. You can process afterwards. I process a bit my sub bass. I just like put a little bit of saturation. I'll put a high cut, so I can, just in case something comes along, just safety. But the main thing is, now it's cool in Ableton because we can do groups of groups, but what I used to do before is I used to do routines, so like send my kick and my bass into an audio channel, send a load of stuff into audio channels, and then group those audio channels and process them in the whole group. Now with groups of groups, we can do, we don't have to do that anymore, and that's really helpful. So you have to know that a kick bass, you need to process them together. You need to stick the two together through processing. There's different ways to do it. I'm not really sure that what I'm going to say is true for everything. I'm just going to show you what I do and how I do. Exactly the same way with the phase. You can do different ways. I'm really just showing you my way of doing it. But you can do different ways. The result is really the most important part of it. If your kick bass is smashing, well, just leave it. And if it's good like that, and it sounds good, and the phase is aligned, and you resample it, it's good. Just leave it. It's smashing. You can, don't fiddle around too much sometimes. If it sounds good, it sounds good. If your sub bass doesn't look like this, well, it's no problem. If it sounds okay, it sounds okay. So, the processing of the kick bass together, what I would do as processing is I would use a compressor to start sticking stuff together. I've got a preset I use a lot of the glue compressor in Ableton called the master and make it loud. So normally if you go into audio effects here, you go to the glue compressor, you've got here make it loud. I understand it, but I understand a bit what compression does. I don't understand it enough to explain it. So I use little presets of compressors that I know work, because I'm shitty at compressing. So what I would do, I would, too bad I don't really have a big example for you. I'm not really into like doing another bass. But I would, put some compression on it. What it does a lot is just pushing the volume a bit. A lot actually, because it's got 5 dBs of makeup, and you can see that it's really attacking like hard. The ratio is at 10. I can push the threshold down a bit, but then you can hear like little distortion in it, so you don't want to compress it too much. Just so that normally a compressor, what it does is it gets the lower sounds higher and squashing the higher sounds so it doesn't move. So you get what's a bit subtle behind, you get it a lot higher. You don't really want that too much on a kick bass. Well, not too much, because you don't want all this shitty harmonics or shitty like residue of sound at the bottom to come up. You want to keep them low volume. You can hear that the more I go down in the thresholds, the more distortion I'll get out of it. You can use this glue compressor. I also use the Pro MB from FabFilter. So this is a multi-band compressor. So it does exactly the same than the glue. Oh, I didn't get it right, did I? Wait. I just explained all of that without you having exactly what it is, because just stick one here, because I bet you couldn't see what I was doing. So I'll do it again. I was only pushing down the threshold a bit and checking. I'll twitch around and you can hear. So you saw that the more I went down in the threshold, the more distortion I got out of it. So that's, you need to like get your threshold right so you don't get any distortion. You don't want saturation and distortion are something totally different. Distortion is really the type of sound that you get from crushing stuff through pedal distortion and things like that. Saturation is a kind of distortion, but it's more subtle and it will bring more kind of rich harmonics into it. Difference between saturation and distortion. When it comes to that, coming back to this FabFilter Pro MB, so what it is exactly, it's a compressor, but it's compression on multi-bands. I don't fiddle too much around with it. I'm going to show you though this preset, wicked preset I use mainly all the time. You go into mix bus and you've got a dynamic goodness, and you hear the difference on and off. You can hear that it glues a bit the two together. I feel that it loses a bit of one harmonic. I lose a bit of one harmonic, I think, maybe on off. Let's see where the spectrum that goes. No, yeah, it's way better with. You can see that in this part at the end, when I was turning it on, everything was going just up a little bit, pushing really like the lower parts just a bit louder. This is one of my go-to presets when I do processing in groups, especially with kick basses, because it won't damage the kick, it won't damage the transient of the kicks. It will just like stick everything together through multiband. compressor. So one thing I'll do, I wouldn't put both on, I'll do one or the other. You don't want too much compression, as I told you, because it can fuck up your transient. It can bring some sort of kind of artifacts that you don't want in your sound, because you really want your kick bass to, especially the low end, to be pretty pure. So yeah, I wouldn't compress too much. I would put afterwards. There's like subtle distortion. So you've got the saturator from Ableton. I'll just use the analog clip and put maybe a 2 dB in drive. Let's put that down 2 dB so you can hear the on-off effect. It's really subtle. All these little processing is really, really subtle. You could not hear it as you could hear it. And the thing is, it's really like little subtle things that do. It changes a lot. You won't hear the on-off thing. You won't hear it. But if I put a track and I take off all the processing I've done on my kick bass, and I export it out, and you could totally hear the difference between when I've got processing and when I haven't got processing. There's a saturator from Ableton that's pretty good. There's one I use a lot from Soundtoys called the Radiator, and it is, I think what it does is it simulates like these sort of tape bands a bit. If I can get another example out for you, is the Kramer from Waves. This is a saturation using a tape band. So it goes through the tapes and it gives it sort of little distortion. I've got a problem with this plugin because it generates a white noise that you can't take off. I never found how to take it off. So I wouldn't use the Kramer anymore. I would use the Radiator a bit. And it also generates white noise, but you can turn it off by turning the noisy off. And let's listen to on and off. So what you can hear with that, there is, I'll play around a bit with the mix. Tweak a bit with the input output, because when I was turning it on and off, using compressors and using distortion will fuck up a bit your transient on your kick. It will happen most of the time, because you're squashing a bit and you're bringing up a bit of the lower sounds. Your transient will get a bit fucked. So play around with that afterwards. And normally you can do it on the group. You don't have to do it on the kick channel. You've got what we call transient shapers. I use the Neutron 2 a lot because it's a multi-band transient shaper. You've got the Transient Master, that's very good as well, from Native. I used to use a lot. Now I use this one because I don't want to. Because I'm using this on the group, I don't want to. Yeah, you can't see what you're doing on the plugin. I know, I tried to move it on the side. If that was for the glue compressor, you can see that normally I've done it better. I hope it. I need to put my face the other way, actually, on the other side, and not on this one. If it was a glue compressor, I went through it again, so normally you would see it again. I realised it. Going back to this Neutron. As I am applying the effect on the group, I don't want. Let's open up. Yeah, cool man, no bother. Yeah, I know. I realised it afterwards. Yeah, Transient Master. So let's go and get. You can see all these. These are all the plugins I use mainly all the time. So the Transient Shape Master from Native is just this sort of attack sustain gain plugin. So if you want more attack, you push the attack. If you want less sustain, you get the sustain down and everything. The only problem with that is that it applies to all the bands at the same time. So it will go and try and get some transients out of the mid bass or things like that. So I would recommend that you use a transient master on the single channel, not on the groups. And if you want to apply transient shaping to the group, I would use a multiband where you can just like push the attack on the high end, play around and go right. And now you totally hear the difference on the on-off. So you do hear the difference in the attack, especially on the top ends. So what I'm going to do, is I'll group all of this at the end, and I'll switch it on and off so you can realise really like the difference between the processing. The last thing I would do really on my kick bass group is to bring a EQ, just to keep an eye on stuff. So I'm very used. I'm used to looking at sounds and looking at how a spectrum is, how it looks, how is it supposed to look. As I said earlier on, I've downloaded Billix's track and put them through a spectrum to see how it is. I put them through analyzers and things like that, because that's the only way you get information is through looking and looking how other producers done it and try to understand. Because there isn't anything out there about hardtek in any kind of tutorials really. There is a couple, but there's no like really high graded tutorial. So the Pro Crew, is just to check out a bit. If I need to boost a bit my sub, I'll boost it a bit through here. If I need more attack, coming back to the context, this is only my kick and my sub bass. If I have afterwards my medium high of the sub in all the rest, the EQ would have more, how can I say it, like more, it'd be more useful, because you have more frequencies coming through it. So if you need to clean little bits out of it, you could. Really, it's just to keep an eye out on the sub and an eye out on the kick, because you can do, to get back more transient, what you can do as well is just a high shelf. As the transient of a kick is only the high ends, because it's the beginning of the kick, it's only high frequencies, so you can push transients through just pushing a high shelf on the high ends. But yeah, an EQ for me will just be around just to like, if you've got a problem putting it in context in your track, like you do your kick bass, it doesn't sound really properly with the rest. Maybe you're missing a bit of sub, maybe it's too much sub, maybe it's too much high end. With EQ, just like clean it out quickly. Do this one a bit further. Okay, and last processing, but it's maybe actually the most important one, is maximizing. So for that, I've got two limiters that I love to use. I've got the Pro L2, and I have got the Pro and the maximizer from Ozone 8. Both very good limiters. I would use them in different situations a bit, as the one from Ozone it uses really too much CPU. The one from Fab Filter is a bit lighter, so I'll use it on different stuff. I'll show you one after the other one. So how it comes, it's just like this sort of gain button where you push the volume and the limiter will squash everything coming over that sort of over the zero. What I want to show you today is here. I'll try to get this out of the way so you can see it. You've got here the different algorithms of limiting. You can go on the Fab Filter website and it will show you. I'll open it up because I've got it behind. I've got it in my favorites. Favorite is which one? So this is the advanced settings, and here you can see every different algorithm of the pre-auto and what it does. So if you want to know what algorithm to use in what situation, go and read that page. I'll give you a link as usual in the description afterwards if you want to watch this again. If you come back to it, I think it's the dynamic that you want, because the dynamics by enhancing transients before applying limiting, preserving the original punching clarity of your audio, and that's what we want. We want when we want limiting, we want algorithms that won't be limiting a bit the first attack, the first couple of milliseconds, so our transient will come out and you really hear it. So it's a dynamic, isn't it? You can hear that the attack of the kick is really high. I hope that there's not going to be any distortion out of it because I'm pushing up the volume pretty much. Trying to mix this. So then if you're wondering how much should you limit, or like sort of values of limiting, so this is the Pro L2. I'll show you now the ozone, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about this. So in the ozone, how it comes up is you've got here the different algorithms, but you don't have to go on the website to check out what they do. You can probably go on the website to see exactly what they do and what situations to do it. I haven't really done that yet. What I use is the IRC4, and there's a transient mode. So I can imagine it's been done to keep transient the way they are and limit afterwards. If not, they wouldn't be calling it transient. So for me, a bit of logic. So let's push a bit more of this one. And the thing good here with ozone is here on the right you've got a peak meter, but you've got an RMS peak meter. A lot of people talk to you about loudness and use the LUFS, LUFS, but that sort of unit it's what it is. It's they take the average volume of the whole track, and it gives you that sort of value. It won't give you a good indication of if your loud parts are as loud as you want them, because you could have like in a 4-minute track you've got 1 minute of kick bass, 3 minutes of break, and you'll get an average really low, even if your kick bass is smashing the head out with everything else, because it's an average, and they take the volume at every sort of second and do an average out of it. I don't like using that kind of unit. I use RMS. RMS is an average on the instant. On the second, he does the average. He calculates it really quickly to get the average of the sound in that moment. It's not the peak. The peak is the highest it hit. But if you see here the RMS, I'll push it a bit more. See. You see that? I get a bit distortion from it here. So normally I would try to hit with everything going on with all the kick bass, like we're missing out the medium high of the bass here, but I will try to get around -1, -2 RMS. I know it's very loud and it's very compressed, but that's how you get loudness. That's really how you get loudness. There's a problem because it's really highly compressed and everything, and it's not. A load of sound engineers will hit me if they hear me saying this, because they're like, no, you shouldn't compress too much. You should leave a load of headroom, things like that. I don't really. I just smash the hell out of it. We heard that Billix used to do masters on his kick bass. Do kick bass. All the processing he does to master his tracks. He masters a kick bass, he sports it out, and then puts it back into a track. So you really want a high volume when it comes up to the kick bass. You don't want it too high to squash everything else, of course, but you want the power out of it, and you want it to be really smashing. So really, I would advise you to limit your kick bass together. In the fact of limiting as well, it sticks a load together, really does, through limiting, and it brings up the lower sounds a bit more. It squashes the higher ones. Let's support it and see. Yeah, you see, I could go a bit more actually. Let's just put this. Let's get this one good and this one. Yeah, you see, you could go even more. You see, go a bit more. The thing is here, the two sine waves here shouldn't be that loud, and your attack needs to be a bit more louder. But that, yeah, I wanted to do this before. I wanted to cut this off. Right. I'm going to group all this little processing here. I don't always do like this, but it's mainly these effects I use to do my processing on my kick bass. So I've lost volume a bit on my bass by doing all this processing. So what I'll do is I'll push it a bit more. But yeah, that's basically how I do it. I've pulled it a bit longer than I should have. Normally it was only supposed to be a little hour of live stream. So that's basically really what I wanted to tell you about kick bass and a bit of processing as well. But really the most important part is to have it in phase. I won't excuse you anymore if you send me over tracks in hardtek and the phases. The kick isn't phased to the bass. I have you now for that. Now that I've explained it in English, really, it is something important. And since we've known that, we've done better hardtek since, so it is something to go through. It's a bit annoying to have to do that, have to freeze it, have it back in audio and everything. But it's the best way really we found out how to do it. So yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, if I've gone too fast, if you want me to go back to some stuff, just give a hello. Yeah, just to see if you really managed to get to all understand really what I've been saying for the last hour and a bit. Because yeah, you could do your basses differently with operator. I could show you the last thing if you want, if you're really interested in this sort of stuff. Let's open up a basic operator. If you want to have these harmonics and you don't want to draw them out, the sub I've done is a bit the low end of the saw wave. Here in operator, let's just switch this off. Here in operator, you've got your waveforms here. And you've only got basic stuff like sine, saw, square. And what it is, if I put a saw in, it will show you exactly what a saw does harmonically. It takes everyone and it goes down in volume. It's every harmonic, but just like pushed down in volume. And the more you go down, you can see it goes down a bit more, and then it goes down a bit softer at the end. If you watch out what a square is every. Let's get square. The square is one harmonic out of two. So it's the first one, the third one, the fifth one, the seventh one, the ninth one, and the 11th one, and so on and so forth. So what you could do instead of drawing this, if you want to do your sub bass out of serum, I would advise you to just take a saw wave and cut off all the high end of it, maybe under 400, 500 hertz, I don't know. A little advice as well I would tell you to do is when you do your bass, is not to like always cut everything under 150. I've been hearing people say that a lot. It's not true. Don't do it. It fucks up your phase to do it. If you do low cuts with like sort of generic sort of EQs, you will have phase problems afterwards. If you want to layer up layer up kicks, like imagine you're doing this and you want to have control only of your attack here, and you want to take the attack off on this. So basically it's the same thing, but it's just in different sounds. Okay, so basically layering is that, but the problem is normally on this one you will still have a bit of let's open another spectrum so you can see. You will have a bit of low frequency. It's not a lot, but it's still there, and it still can fuck up your kick. I would advise you to do is you've got in the Pro Q of that filter, if you do a low cut like this, if you want the phase to stay the same, you've got here where there's called zero latency. You've got natural and linear phase. Use a linear phase, meaning that the phase won't move. It will never move off your kick. It will sound exactly the same. I'll switch it on and off and you'll see. It sounds the same. It sounds exactly the same. But the thing is, when you add up again the low end of your kick, and if you add in another attack or you add in other layers of it, you hear that they won't have any problems with the phase using this linear phase parameter on the Pro Q. So yeah, if you've got a problem with phasing and you've got this kick that moves along a bit, like every fourth hit the attack is a bit different, you should have problems with the phase, and you should cut them out using these sorts of EQ with linear phase. So yeah, that's about it really. I went a bit over what I planned. I didn't plan to show you all of this stuff, but I had a bit of time, so I don't really mind. So if you enjoyed this, and if you want me to do more tutorials in English, I've been trying to do a load in French because I know a lot of hardtek producers are French, and that every tutorial you get on the internet is in English, and French people are crap speaking English. I was doing a load of them in French, but if you guys want me to do sessions in English, I'll try to do like what I do in French. I'll try to redo it then in English, so people don't get left out and people don't if you don't speak English and only French, you don't get left out on the tutorials, and the other way around. That's why I wanted to do this one in English, absolutely. So, so yeah, if you enjoyed it, if I've been too fast or things like that, if you're watching the replay and I've said some totally massive shite, give me a message, comment or anything. Just let me know, because I don't know everything. What I know, it's been like deduction that we've been going through and talking with artists and things like that about music producing. So yeah, I'm not like, I don't know everything. I'm not sure of everything I've been saying. So, nice one. I really enjoyed it. This good info. Would love to see more. It'd be fine with French to English subtitles as well. Yeah. Well, the thing with subtitles is it's a long time to do, and I'm a bit shit at translating. So I would prefer. I think I would do, if I do like this cool tutorial in French, I'll probably just do it in English afterwards, like the week afterwards, things like that, because subtitles are crazy. And ask Tam, because we've been speaking about doing Spanish subtitles, and I don't trust the auto-generated subtitles from YouTube, because I watch some stuff with it, and sometimes when you get into like technical stuff, it just gets bonkers. It just goes the wrong way, and it's like translating. It's nothing the same as what you've been saying. So yeah, I'll probably do it in English. But I'm cool. I'm happy. Some English speaking persons are here to listen to this. So cool. I'll keep you all in touch probably about what's coming next. I did a bit break over December on all the tutorials and all the live stream stuff, but I'm going to get back into it. I find it really cool, and I like to like explain stuff to people, especially like in hardtek. Like, this genre needs to take another level. We need to step up this genre. We need to like make the world know that hardtek exists, not even like just hardcore, Frenchcore and things like that. We need to get it like at top level, and to get it out, you need more producers. We need more hardtek producers. We need more good hardtek producers, and we need to share the information that we know. So, so yeah, I'm happy to be doing this in English, and I'll probably be doing a load more in English afterwards as well. So yeah, thanks everybody for being here, to keeping me company and to listen to me talk for an hour and a half. Probably not today, but probably tomorrow. I'll put all the links I used and everything in the description of the track, so you can watch it again. You can like freeze and you can check out what I've been saying, and even if you want to go a bit more into the frequency modulation synthesis, or know about more harmonics or things like that, you can go and check out what I've been reading to you. So everybody have a nice afternoon. Keep safe. Hope everybody is okay with this COVID shit, and hope it will be over soon so we can all go back to partying together. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon. I'll keep you in touch for every other tutorials in English or in French. Big up everybody for being here. Thanks a lot. Take care. See ya.